Jimat, Amulets of Java. I'm recording this because of one of my subscribers, Ryan Hampton, spotted some Jimat in the community tab, and he asked me if I'd record something on these talisman, as he called them, from Java. And of course, you know, I'm only too happy to do it. To a certain degree, I've already covered this in other vlogs, but you know, it's useful to do a more in-depth analysis. It's also useful to pull it out so that you have something just on Jimat. Now, some Western magicians get terribly pedantic between the difference between an amulet and a talisman, even though they're often used interchangeably. Is it the difference between them being man-made or not? I don't think they are. No, I think it's to do with whether it's worn on the person or not. And to a certain degree, we have what we call Jimat in Indonesia, which are often worn on the person, so you could see those as amulet. And Wafak, which are often placed around the home. But the big distinction between the two is that a Wafak would normally have a Taweez, in other words, a magic square or Solomonic square of Saturn, Freudian slip there on it. So there is that difference. The other thing is we do have something called Raja in Indonesia. Now that's a sacred item that's put in the house, but it normally contains black magic. So if you want to curse somebody's house, you put a Raja in them. When I find them, they are often look a little bit like those offerings you see in Buddhist and Hindu areas, where they're placed on a pavement, and perhaps with joss sticks and flowers around them, you know, wrapped in a bamboo leaf. But we also found under our house, or buried under our house in Jakarta and placed in different parts, we found a quite a large bamboo container containing nails and pins in it. So no guesses what that was intended to do. So I'm going to restrict today to talking about Jimat, which I say are probably the closest to talisman. Very much influenced by animism, Kejawen believers, and you know, people across Indonesia, quite honestly. But they very much use natural objects, seeing that these natural objects have particular power. So things like a tusk or a tooth from a tiger. I mean, you're about to see one from a what is it from? From a boar, a wild boar, yeah. From tigers, from boars, from that sort of thing. These are placed around the house for protection because they're believed to embody the actual spirit of that animal. So if you place a wild boar's tusk, say above your door, the wild boar will be guarding that door. So that's the starting point there. Having said that, certain animals, and you can see here this sort of iridescent insect, because it's iridescent, it attracts other animals, and therefore it's believed to be a very powerful love potion. And so people will carry this insect themselves, but what they'll also do is they'll maybe encase it into a keychain or something like that to carry with them, and it's believed to attract lovers to them. This next thing you can see, we're sort of moving on to plant-based things now, and this next thing you can see is a coconut Bezoar. Now, Bezoars are very rare. They're a growth. You can get them in humans, so or let's say cats. You know, the hairballs can turn into something that's quite hard and stone-like. But humans get them as well. They're quite rare, and because of their rarity, they've always been treasured by magicians. In fact, I'm pretty certain that there's a mention of them in a part of Harry Potter. The most common Bezoar in Indonesia is this coconut Bezoar, but it's still not that common. So because it's rare, people attach magical properties to it. I've got to be honest, I'm not exactly certain what the property is, but knowing Indonesia, it almost certainly differs from place to place and person to person. It's probably used for luck, but I couldn't be 100% certain. The same is true of this bamboo Petuk. You see, if you see that where those two other sort of nodes are coming off it, that's where two branches. Well, if you think of bamboo growing up the other way vertically, it would be very unusual for them to cross like that, because if they keep growing, they'll cross, as you can see. So this is very rare. It's placed around the house. I know it's placed around the house for protection, but it's also believed to bring luck with money. But this is believed to be very powerful indeed. Now, what we call Jenitri seeds, but in Indians called Rudraskha, grow naturally in Java. In fact, the best ones grow in Java. They tend not to be as big as some of the Nepalese, but actually the smaller ones are more, well, the larger they are, they're worth more money. But of the smaller variety from Java, they're worth more money than the Nepalese. And they're seen, well, they're used by Hindus in India. And you know, they can be worth as much money as precious stones, depending on exactly how they look. And it's to do with the number of faces on them. So the number of faces has a significance, you know, maybe to do with Shiva or Ganesha or something like that. Each one means something slightly different. And so what you can see here is just the seeds themselves. And as I say, these grow naturally in Java. You find them in Java. People do use them in Java, but they're worth so much to Indian traders in general. Any that are very rare will be sold to Indian traders. And they're made up into things, obviously. So here's a back scrub that it's been made into. And then we have this is a prayer bead, what you might know as a rosary, or mala. This particular one's got a coin on it. I think, oh no, it's a Chinese coin. Almost certainly that coin was put in an urn with the bones of a Chinese person. So this one will also be believed to have maybe the spirit of that Chinese person in it. They're believed also to be extremely good for your health. So people wear them obviously next to the skin. They're meant to be good for both your mental and your physical health. Other plants associated with different things. So this is actually slices of Pasak Bhumi. Pasak Bhumi, you might know it as Tongkat Ali or Longjack. It's a natural Viagra. What it really does is it boosts testosterone. And it does it amazingly well, I have to say, as an older male. If you start taking it for about a week, you begin to realise that you're far less grumpy. Of course, most older males like being grumpy, so you might not think that's a good thing. But yeah, if you take it for about a week, you start to get less grumpy, And yeah, you function in that area much better. So this is slices of Pasak Bhumi with a dua, which is a prayer. It's taken directly, I think it's taken directly from Al-Quran, but it's a prayer for love. So these are obviously intended to enhance one's ability to find sexual partners. Well, having talked about natural plants and animal-based Jimat, we should now turn to sort of natural materials. And the first of these, you can see these stones, and reputedly these stones were found with these doas, this Arabic lettering on it, which comes directly from the Quran. Now, I don't believe it for 1 minute. I'm sure they've got some sort of a stencil and some acid that actually cuts them out. But yeah, they're widely sold all over Indonesia like that. The same, you'll come across an awful lot of stones in the shape of eggs that are widely sought after, and you know, they might have started off a bit like an egg, but I'm sure they're rubbed down to make them more impressive. And this one you can see, is that Arab? I don't think it is. Is it Javanese lettering on it? Anyway, you know, again, they will be manufactured, even though when you buy them, you'll be told for certain they're not. And clearly you keep them on your person for good luck. These bracelets here, they're Akabakar. Often they come from Kalimantan, Borneo in other words. They come from the more rural parts of Indonesia, and it's just a black root, and people wear them for protection as bracelets. These aren't particularly fancy ones. I'm not sure if they actually grow in Java, but it's certainly in East Java, round Jimba and Banyuwangi. They get very, very fancy versions of these and maybe carve them into a naga or a dragon type figure. Still bracelets, you know, the one end is the head and the other end is the tail. But these are just simple ones. These would be just very cheap ones. Also from Kalimantan is a bulu perindu, which is it's a grass. Yeah, it's a grass. I think it might be the same grass that Western magicians call moving serpents. Moving serpents, not seed, moving serpents grass, I guess. Yeah. And because it moves, it attracts, it moves towards something, just like that iridescent insect. It's believed to be a very powerful love spell, and you can see here this one. It's put inside an oil, and it's actually used as a Jimat. It's hung around the neck to attract people to them. So yeah, that's quite a rare one, particularly in the West, to find that. Now, I suppose I should put precious and semi-precious stones along with other stones, but I've split them out because they are so very important in Indonesia. Now, as I've already said, any natural object, I mean, the reason why, because of animism, people believe that all things created by God have a consciousness. So therefore, stones have a consciousness. It's not quite the same as sort of crystals in the New Age, but it's probably coming from a similar type of source. It's also believed that you can trap jinns within stones. And, you know, because of their crystalline structure, it could be true. I think it's probably just the consciousness of the object itself. But yeah, stones, particular semi-precious stones, are thought to have massive powers in Indonesia. And the biggest of those is this Mera de Lima, which is a ruby from Java, and supposedly it offers marvellous protection. If 3 people hold hands and one of them has a little piece of this Mera de Lima in it, they can't be shot or killed. They can't even get their hair cut. Nothing can happen to them. But, you know, none of them, I mean, you know, let's face it, if there was a stone that was this wonderful and powerful, it would be worth billions of dollars, wouldn't it? So, nothing that is for sale in Java is real. These are just, well, I don't know what they are. I think it's comes from a shell, doesn't it? I think this version. And then the next one, you see, it's made into a ring. And these are actually Mera Siam, so that's a Thai red zircon. Red zircon, but it will be sold in Indonesia as Mera de Lima. And, you know, they test Mera de Lima by putting it behind a glass and seeing if the water lights up. But some of them even have batteries inside that light it up, you know. Yeah, as though there's a real Mera de Lima out there to be bought for $20 or something. The Betawi people of Jakarta, these are the mixed race people, generally with a lot of Chinese mixed race in them. They love these long shaped rings, these padan rings as they call them. So this is a dragon's skin, it's called a dragon's skin padang. Very sought after by the Betawi people. It must be because it has some mystical significance, but I've got to admit I don't quite understand what it is. But it's become lost in the mist of time. It's just seen as lucky by the Betawi people. Something that is definitely used for protection by the Javanese is what we'd call turquoise, but I hold back from calling it turquoise because it can be other colours. So they're actually called a virus because of it's seen as though it's a virus running through the stone, and they're often called virus Persia, even though probably most of them will come from Afghanistan. But of course much of Afghanistan was Persia at a time, so that's probably the reason for it. But these are seen to have very, very good properties for protection of the individual, and you'll see these turquoise rings widely used in Indonesia. Now, I have spoken about rings before, so I'm going to finish here because I don't want rings to dominate this. And in fact, you could argue that rings aren't really Jimat, are they? But the stones can be just put in the pocket, so that's why I showed a few of these rings. Separate vlog on gobog or lucky coins. But yeah, people use gobog and lucky coins in their they put them in the pocket just as they would Jimat. And it starts off with unusual coins. So here's one. Sorry, it's not in very good condition, but this is Raja Brooks. So Raja means king. So this is King Brooks, and he was actually an Englishman who became the king of the Sarawak Dayak people, actually in Malaysia. But it's quite sought after because people thought that this white king of the Dayak people must have incredible powers, because the Dayak are thought to have incredible mystical powers. So to add the fact that he was an Englishman. And in fact, I think that's the reason why Brunei is still separate from Malaysia, because I think Raja Brooks's domain shrunk down to that. I might have got that wrong, but anyway. Yeah, it's quite sought after because the power that's attributed to him. Gobog, you know, Chinese, this is probably a Javanese copy of a Chinese coin that people believe have strong powers. And yeah, people will carry these on them because when the coins first came from China to Indonesia, they didn't understand that they had an exchange value, but they noticed the Chinese attached magical properties to them, so the Javanese just kept doing it. And there was actually a ban on the minting of these coins. Ban on the export of these coins, so they started minting them in Indonesia. At first the copies weren't very good at all, but slowly they evolved to have Indonesian designs, and here you see a beautiful Saria, which means star, or sun, coin from the Majapahit era. I don't think this would ever have had any exchange value. It was just a gobok. It was just a lucky coin, but absolutely beautiful. And I'm not sure that these were ever coins. They might just have been attempts at making local attempts at making gobok, but you can see attached with a wild boar's whiskers, because this comes from the Dayak tribe of Borneo. So it's not Java, but it's the Dayak tribe of Borneo, and they've certainly attempted to use the properties of a gobog, even though I don't believe it is a gobog. I think they've just made it along with something natural there. So a very interesting variant that you see there. The other thing that people will use in the same way, interchangeably with gobog, are these Barter Weights. These particular ones came out of the River Solo, which is believed to be quite mystical in itself. So people will carry these just in the same way that they would lucky coins, believing that they have some sort of a magical power attached to them. I came across this, and I just know it's a Javanese Jimat. I mean, it looks a bit like a coin, but it's not. I'm certain it's for luck. It's probably meant to be made of Bessie Kooning, which is a alloy that gives it this gold colour. And the best Bessie Kooning is meant to have come from the old gates of the Kraton in the Sultan's Palace in Yogyakarta or Jogja. I mean, of course, it's all garbage, but they will still be making this. I think it would be zinc and copper, maybe iron. But it's an alloy of metals that gives it this golden effect. And I just think this is a gorgeous item, and it's actually from my personal collection, this one. Buckshot. So old buckshot are carved with, you can see Arabic lettering here. Again, probably something from Al-Quran. But I don't believe for 1 minute these are original buckshot. I think they're manufactured. There's probably the acid is put on them to carve it out. But they're lucky items, aren't they? They're rather nice items. It's something easy to carry in your pocket, and whatever the doer says, that will be the sort of luck it brings. Probably it's just a general good luck thing. I'm not sure. Now, even though I'm focusing on Java, I've mentioned the Dayak people a number of times, the Dayak from Kalimantan or Borneo. Well, living side by side with the Dayak people are the Banjar people from around Banjarmasin. And although they're Malays, I think they mixed with the Javanese because their language is quite close to Javanese. And you find an awful lot of interchange with Javanese culture between the Banjar people and the Javanese. And things that they create, this is called a panchamera, are used an awful lot in Indonesia, and particularly in Java. They're made by a kaya, that's a religious scholar, who will be praying as he manufactures them. And originally they were used for protection of people of high status like tribal leaders and sultans. And this particular one it has the 99 names of Allah engraved on it. I say a kaya, it could also be a sheikh, but he will pray and he will fast as he's making it. Now, as I say, I'm talking about Jimat, but the Wafak equivalent of that is the Wafak Andraman, which does have the magic squares on it, and it's normally placed above a door. Another one, specifically for the door, is a Rufak Pintu Resiksi. But they're all very similar, all coming from these Banjar people. Now, these Banjar people, or kaya from the Banjar people, the most common thing they make is this thing called a Chimeti Ali, which literally means Ali's whip. They're generally made out of wood, and they're believed to contain they supposedly come from a sacred tree, and it's believed that the kaya, through his prayer and meditation, puts a hodum in them, which is a benevolent jinn. It's reported that if you hold the Chimeti Ali and you strike someone, that they'll die immediately, such is their power. And to prevent a fatality, one strikes with an open hand, but your adversary will be taught an important lesson. And so now you also see them made of bone. I mean, they're made of all sorts of things, but these bone ones are particularly nice and very much sought after. We're now getting to manufactured objects. So I suppose Jimat proper, if you like. And I'm now moving to Java. So the first of these is a Besi Kuning, or Besi Kuning Jarum, or Kempong Jala Sutra. Now, I've already explained to you about Besi Kuning being this sacred metal. Oh, I've remembered what they're made of now. I mean, it's not going to be all of these, but it could be made of gold, silver, copper, tin, nickel, lead, and iron. And this particular one, this is shaped into a cocoon with a needle at one end. And again, it's said to contain a hodum, or a benevolent jinn, which provides protection from black magic for the owner. I actually myself, and I might have got this completely wrong, misinterpreted it, but I think the fact that it has that needle there is that it's also used for sticking into effigies, voodoo-like dolls, but I might have got that completely wrong, but I think it is used for that. Now, Besi Kuning is often manufactured into these containers which are hung around the neck or kept on the person. Could be used as a keychain, couldn't they? But it's what's inside them that's important. So there'll be Arabic calligraphy on the outside, which will contain a goa. But then you can put something inside, like a Mera Siam. That would be very common, to put in a small piece of Mera Siam, used as protection, both for men and women. It really needs to be blessed by a dukan or a kaya. But yeah, these are very common. You'll also see them called azimats. But using the word azimat is more common amongst the Chinese population. So you can see here a Chinese one in the shape of a Buddhist pagoda. And this will definitely contain some sacred Buddhist calligraphy inside it. Be used either on the person, maybe hung from the mirror of a car even, or kept in the pocket for protection, for sure. Now, when you look at the Chinese population of Indonesia, first of all, they tend to be concentrated in the cities. You don't find so many in the rural areas. And secondly, the further west you are, the more likely they are to be Buddhist. And the further east they are, the more Christians there are amongst them. I mean, clearly there's a few other religions as well, but in general that's how you'd find it. So in Medan in Sumatra in particular, largest city in Sumatra, and very high population of Chinese, and many of them are Buddhists. Now they have been producing their own amulets they've always produced their own amulets, and they've always imported them from China. So what you see here is some Buddhist scripture, or some Buddhist writings, encased in in plastic. It would be hung from a mirror, or maybe it would be kept in a pocket or used as a keychain, something like that. But slowly these Buddhists in Medan started importing Thai amulets, particularly, ones depicting Buddha. You can see here the green Buddha from Bangkok. They started importing them, using them themselves and selling them in the Chinese community. But non-Chinese Indonesians cottoned on and began to believe that these had stronger powers than Javanese Jimat. Whilst at the same time, Thai people started to hear about Indonesian Jimat and started to believe that the Indonesian Jimat had stronger powers than their own amulets. And now I think it's because both recognise that their amulets are produced in workshops. Most of them are produced in workshops. And if a Buddhist monk, Kaya, Dukan, Ustad is involved, they'll be just blessing the workshop. There won't be their individual effort going into the amulet. I mean, clearly there are some that are made in that way, but they're clearly quite rare and worth a lot of money. So people believe that those from the other country are worth more. And certainly if it's an important Kaya, an important monk, then they will have powers residing in them. But the truth is, anyone with a bit of magic ability can actually put a power into an object, even like a McDonald's toy. Now there'll be different traditions to do this, so I'm just going to talk about how I would do it. And I would rub oil into the object after the sun goes down, shortly after the sun goes down, on either a Monday or Friday night, or perhaps a Monday and Friday night. And I would think I might even say certain things to put this power into the object. And the truth is, the more that any object, no matter what it is, anything is venerated, then the more power it develops. So whilst I can see where people are coming from, it's slightly an erroneous idea of how these work. Now, the final one I want to show you is a statue of Hanamo. Hanamo would be widely known throughout Asia, particularly associated with Hindu and Buddhism, but of course, in Indonesia, most people know very much of these traditions. This is a small one. Many of the Thai ones are very small and be kept in a pocket. Now, I'm not saying that the Javanese don't keep Javanese statues in their pockets, but generally they're a little bit bigger. They'd normally be put on an altar or a shelf, and they'd normally be of people like Semar Messam, Nira or Akidal. So I'm not going to go into any detail on small Javanese statues. I just wanted to show you this Thai one. So what's happened is Indonesians have started producing their own sort of versions of Thai amulets, sometimes sort of directly like Thai amulets, or sometimes combining the sort of Javanese Jimat tradition with the Thai amulet tradition. And the first ones you see here are taproot type amulets. That just means that they're cylindrical amulets. And the first one is Sharira, Saria pearls. Now, I don't think for 1 minute they're real Saria pearls. Saria pearls are meant to be that when you burn the body of Buddha, that left in the ashes of these pearls. Now, yeah, I don't believe it. And I'm pretty certain these come from Indonesia, so where would the body of Buddha come from? The next one you see, again, it's this tackroot style. But this contains an oil, and it's got bulu perindu in it, so it's clearly a love potion. I think it must be made in Indonesia because it's got this bulu perindu. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty certain that it's made there. And then you see here a whole collection of amulets, that all of them are Indonesian. They're all fairly recent. You can see many of them have just been put into lockets that people would buy, and so they do tend to have Hindu or Buddhist themes to them. But it's sort of a merger of this sort of Hindu, Buddhist and Javanese culture, a merger of this Thai amulet and this Javanese Jimat tradition. So the first one we see in detail is actually has a mini Chris, which I'm going to come to in a minute, a mini Chris Semar. So I've talked about Semar Messen before, but a mini Chris Semar in it. It's got some sort of a jewel in it. It looks like it's got bulu perindu. And it's also got rosine, which is just before the substance becomes, I'm going to call it jasper. Just before the substance, which is excreted from trees, becomes amber, it becomes this more pliable rosine. It's actually used for cleaning or strengthening violin strings, I believe. So yeah, this is clearly a Javanese one. I guess it's for luck, having got the rosine. It's probably to do with love, isn't it? Because it's got bulu perindu inside it. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely Javanese. The next one, I'm sure this next one is Javanese, but there's a monetary note inside that, and that's actually from Vietnam. I don't think for 1 minute this is from Vietnam, not least as it's got Arabic writing on it. So it's got a doa on it, which I think is for money, a Vietnamese money inside it. And I think this is a good luck charm for wealth in getting money from overseas. I might be wrong, but that's what it feels to me. And this next one, you see we have the swastika there, which is a Hindu symbol, a good luck symbol. Behind that are dried flowers. I believe them to be jasmine, but I might be wrong. So it's another general good luck charm. And then this first round one we have, I'm pretty certain what's inside that is opium. Now this isn't psychoactive opium, but it has. I think it's real opium, but it's not psychoactive. You wouldn't be able to buy it in Indonesia if it was. But it will have the same smell as opium, and because opium was imported by the Dutch into Java from British India, there used to be lots of opium addicts. So therefore it's believed there are lots of ghosts addicted to opium in Indonesia, and if you want to invoke them, then you have to burn opium, or at least have the smell of opium. So I believe this charm is to invoke spirits that are addicted to opium. This next one has got the Hamza, the hand of Hamza, and an eye on it. So I believe that it's for protection from the evil eye. We now have quite a charming one because it's got Ganesh or Ganesha inside, mounted on a Javanese batik. So this is definitely taking Javanese traditions, but within this sort of overall Thai amulet style. And then a very contemporary one. We've got this little toy, this little doll baby standing on those squares there. I don't know, it's just A, B, C, D, E, isn't it? Yeah. I was wondering if it spelt anything. It doesn't, no. But the doll will be a toil, or in Thai, a gumanthong. So this is associated, well, not associated, they're used for stealing other people's wealth. So it will be used for you attracting wealth from others, and you send out the toil, and the toil will go and steal other people's wealth. But they're only babies, so you have to teach them how to do it. And you have to reward them. You have to give them a present, like a toy, for when they're finished. Returning to Jimat proper now, you've already seen one of these in the Thai-style amulets, or the Javanese-style amulets. And these are small kris. These are actual kris samar. There were more regular kris shown on the opening sequence. Now, kris are the most important items in Javanese mysticism, the full-size kris. Although there's sort of 3/4 and half size used for ceremonial purposes, but these are small ones. So a kris is a knife or a sword, and they're believed to attract spirits. We clean them every Satu Suro, which is, if you like, our Halloween, the first day of the Islamic New Year. I keep them wrapped in pisang raja leaves, so this is king banana leaves. You have to take great care of your kris because they attract all sorts of things. The way to harm someone if you know they have a kris is to send malevolence to their kris. But then if they're clever, their kris is already well covered. But, the more kris you have lying around, the more dangerous it is. The more power you have, but certainly the more dangerous it is for you. Next, very, very powerful would be Kitab Al-Quran. So these are extracts from Al-Quran that are kept. They're very small. They're tiny. Just what can I say? About 3 centimeters by 2 centimeters. So they're just extracts from Al-Quran that are kept on the person. It was believed that the freedom fighters against the Dutch wore them or held them on their person, and as a result, the Dutch bullets couldn't kill them. There's various sorts, and you can see this rolled up type, which is in an azimat, so hung round the neck. But often these can contain things, contain spirits in them, and not always welcome spirits. So I've been led to believe with these, even though they're lovely items, aren't they? Perhaps not really in fitting with Islam, although it's got doors from Al-Quran on it. These wallets, these are lucky wallets to attract money. So you keep money inside, or they're quite small. They wouldn't be big enough. What you probably do is put a note or a coin inside it, and that note or a coin will bring you luck. That's how it's meant to be. You keep it in your pocket and it'll attract other money. But as I say, it's not really in keeping with Islamic beliefs, despite coming from Islam. And just to finish, I wanted to just mention that, of course, there's a whole pile of things that are turned into key rings that are thought to bring luck. Just as when I was a child, we used to get rabbit's foot key rings for luck. There's a whole pile of things, and here's one you can see. Semar Mesem has been turned into a keyring. So Semar Mesem is meant to protect the people of Java, so this is probably used for protection, although it's also associated with love. So there's just an out chance that it could be intended for love as well. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed this vlog and that, not only got something out of it, but provoked thoughts. I'm not here to push my beliefs, my thoughts on you, only to open up your own thinking, get you thinking about the world and life. When I started The Real Magic of Java, I believed that I'd only release them every month or maybe every 2 months. But now I find myself adding to this subsection once or twice a week. But please subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications for when I add new parts to this subsection. In part, the reason why I'm doing it more often is that the concept has moved from filming rituals and events that took place in Java to me also describing my beliefs and philosophy. And that does come in response to people expressing an interest in it. But of course, me actually seeing rituals and events really doesn't happen so often. What I would say to you is that there's no attempt at subterfuge on my behalf. And when I do experience rituals, I will include them for you to see. And as I say, there's no way I'm trying to mislead you. And if I believe there is subterfuge, if I uncover it, I will point it out to you. I'm trying to be as honest as I can be. Now, please make comments, please ask questions, and I'll try to be as honest and open with you as I can be. Of course, there will be some of you who disagree with me, particularly when I talk in terms of my own beliefs, my own feelings. And, you're welcome to alternative feelings and we can agree to disagree. Sometimes I find that people on YouTube can be unnecessarily attacking and aggressive, and at times I don't restrain myself enough, and I apologise, but it's not my intention to put anybody down, I know what I talk about can be emotive, and it can be challenging to your beliefs. But, I'd love to enter an open discussion, a heartfelt discussion. But unfortunately, I often come across things that are, especially when people quote the scriptures to me, I've just no idea where it takes us, Because I'm speaking from the heart, sorry, if you want to quote the scriptures at me, do so, but it doesn't have much impact on me, I personally have no desire to impose my feelings on you, and I suppose when people try to do it to me, it washes off, All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to share my feelings with you, and I'd love an open discussion on feelings. I really would love it, and sorry if I don't always react as best I should. I try and cure this in myself, but I think this is part of the sort of narcissism of social media that I talk about so much in this subsection. So look, if you've enjoyed it, I really urge you to listen to other sections on this channel, particularly the 4 audio books that I've uploaded onto this channel. Yes, they are in a novel format, they are novels, but they go into much greater depth than my thoughts and feelings. Now, what I would say to you is these are sequential, so my thoughts and feelings develop as we go through each chapter and each book. So it does begin with 1.1, the Chinese cemetery, but hey, it's up to you. Feel free to dip in as you wish, as you want. And really heartfelt thanks for listening to this. And I really want to say a great big thank you, and God bless you.